Anyway, so with the interest of time, I have to continue this. So if you have been able, I mean, this is one of the classic examples that I want to bring it up. um, how do you do this value proposition, and how do you do this great business model and the better financial results? Then how do you do that, right? So I hope most of you would have been to different countries, especially India, right? So if you have been into like city like Chennai or Mumbai, imagine for a moment that you are in standing on a road on a rainy day. You would notice that large number of motor scooters, snucking around your car, and as you notice the more closely of those people who's traveling on those scooters, those are bear with the family, one scooter bearing a family. So both parents and with several children, three, four, five children maybe, they will be going on up a single motorcycle. Just give me a minute. So when you look at that, your first thought might be, I mean, this is crazy, because we usually even we don't do that. If a foreigner coming into the city like that, they might go crazy definitely. And you might even think that this is the way the Indians, it's not only Indians, sometimes we see that it's region people. So the same culture we find in this part of the world as well. But when Ratan Tata looked at this over this scene, he showed this, that he felt that there's a critical job to be done by providing them a safer alternative scooter for a family. Now, why they travel in that scooter? Because they have limited financial access. So, Ratan Tata, who understood that the cheapest car available in the market is at least 5 times higher than the scooter, that many of the scooter family were not afford to have that. Therefore, offering them an affordable and safer, which can suit for all weather alternatives for scooter families, was a powerful value proposition that he made through the small and the micro car, Tata car. You would have seen the yellow color Tata car, mostly used for the cab service here. That one of the, that value proposition that he made. So one with the potential to reach tens of millions of people who were not yet part of the car market buying industry altogether. So that is the, the strong business model. He identified the value proposition and he came up with a strong business model where he was able to capture the entire market. Similarly, the Hilti tool, Hilti to a drill machine, there is a series of set of tools available. Hilti is the manufacturer of high-end power tool, and for the construction industry, and that they consider the job to be done by many of their customers, because without those tools they won't be able to complete the job. The contractors are making money out of finishing the job. They have to finish the job to get the money out of it. If the required tools are not available and functioning properly, the job doesn't get done, and contractor don't make the money out of owning the tool itself. They make the money by using the tool efficiently as possible. But the Hilti, what they did was they helped the contractor by selling the tool use. Instead of making them to buy the tool, they provided the tool at the right time and quickly finish their project. And they help them with In case if there's issue, they quickly, that repair that issue, or they give the replacement, or they give the upgrades and all that. All that done for a monthly fee. So then that becomes a huge success story because they don't have to, contractors no need to have on a tool. Some tools are very expensive, but they just need to use it for a couple of hours. But it has to be, it has to serve the purpose of quickly repairing that job. So it's very important to have a clear business model and understand the timing, and then we make the changes. So there is a clear difference between, that you put up the formalizing a business planning process. It's traditionally, we know the organizations are using, traditional organizations, they are using the business planning, but now, the modern organization, they call the business modeling. The business model plays a very important role in transforming that company. The business model is establishing what is economic value to what you are creating, to seen through the metrics of the customer. If you're going to start a new business, then you intend to build actually going to be a business that has sustainable, and it has to have an attractive business model. How are you going to build a proof of concept? And then how much capital that is required to set up that business, and how are you going to scale your business beyond your proof of concept? What is proof of concept? You have a concept and you prove that this can be a good business model, it can be a prototype, you have everything, and you got to know that how are you going to go beyond that your POC and go to the market and make money out of it? How much growth that the working capital is going to be or required to be able to grow your business. Typically, the fast growing business required more capital. So small businesses are able to generate their own growth capital, but other businesses are incredibly sometimes require massive capital. But they can also do a fast growth as well. Some of the organizations create the growth capital through their business itself. So traditional business plan, it's all about business improvements and largely around budget and policies. Then there is a business model which is obviously key to underpinning of any of this business plan. If you don't have a proper business plan, then there is no use of having these, that you won't be able to make the real impact with your customers. But these needs to be extracted to look at it separately, because a business model can be looked at across entirely new way, right? So you got to see whether it serves as an ongoing extension to the feasibility analysis, or establishing what is economic value, or how all these elements of business work to fit together and working as a whole, and also why the network and participants needed to make the business idea available, the viable who would be willing to work together. And many of new companies will give something away at one level of their business model in order to make money further downstream in their, that another part of the business to scale up. Because if they don't have money, that part of the objective also nowadays, the startups, they build a business model and they create a business and then they create the market and market share, and then they sell it, and then they put that money back to a different business and they try to make more revenue out of it. So this is becoming very common. So it is important to understand end-to-end business systems and the economic of your business model. And if you are building a transformative company, and you won't be, that necessarily want to build an organization to build everything that required in your end-to-end system. You may want to partner with some of the organization who has confidence, which you mean that you don't have to hire full-time employees, you don't have to become an expert on everything. You become an expert in the thing that you are important, and particularly around the customer experience, on whatever you are expert on that. Rest of the items you can outsource it or work with the partners. So how will it be, that will the business as a partner, that how are you going to partner with, and how would you stand to benefit by benefiting your business, and what will make the customer switch to my product and services? No? So if the answers to each of the above questions is not satisfactory, then your business model should be revised or abandoned. If you can't answer to those questions, if you don't find a proper answer to those questions, you got to revise or abandon that plan itself, because it doesn't make sense to continue. Ultimately, business model is a viable only insofar as the buyers and the sellers and the partners involved see it as an appropriate method of selling their product or services. Only then you will get the buy-in from them. So the business model emerges as a result of response to the analysis and understanding the value chain. The value chain is the string of activities that moves a product from a raw material stage through the manufacturing and distribution and ultimately to the end user. So by analyzing their value chain and those of their competitors, and entrepreneurs are able to identify opportunities to enhance their competitive strategies. By studying their product and services in the value chain, an entrepreneur can identify ways to create additional values in order to enhance their competitive advantage, and also serve as means to assess whether the entrepreneur has the means to do so. So the business can be formed to strengthen the value chain from product or service. However, only if viable business model can create to support it. So look at this value chain where the little thing can happen in isolation. Whether we design, construct, or process, or the generate an action of a happening and a random or series of events. In the value chain, the product can minimize the value chain and can be directly attributed into the individual value of each and every inputs in the value chain. So if you look at the final product as as an individual activity that can brought into the simple equation, it makes sense to enhancing the small activity will positively affect the final product. So this is the basis of value chain analysis, right? You bring in all the small activities, and that can be brought into a simple equation, and it can make sense of enhancing small activities into positively affect the final product. So in this value chain, it can be considered as, you can take it as primary and secondary activities. What primary activity does is all essential operations such as logistics, marketing, sales, service, Whereas secondary activities, actions and processes support these primary activities like finance, human resource, IT, etc. Like alternatively, you can add value, and by conducting the value chain analysis, business can identify the start and finishing of all whatever the most important part for the business and the organization. Today, now this approach required an understanding of linking between activities and ways that performance of activity affects in the cost and the performance to others. Now, to perform the value chain analysis, you got to drive the firm into the activities and assign the cost to these activities, each activity, and understand the cost drivers and linkage between activity and company's cost position and relative to competitors. And then you got to identify the linkage to the buyers and value chain, and then assess the potential source of differentiation and then develop the differentiation strategy that maximize the value to the buyers and minimize the cost. Today, you can easily assemble your value chain, the value proposition. For example, you can pick up your mobile, or you can go to the website and you can log into eBay and you can order something. You can pay through your credit card or PayPal, direct you to the PayPal, and then can be delivered through DHL or any courier service. So anyone can do all these, assemble their ecosystem. Anyone can do that. During this journey, the eBay or the PayPal or DHL, or no one is determining anything. Nobody retrieve any of these things. They don't know what inside activity happening in each and every areas. So that is the power of the technology today we are in. So if we can wake up to that level, I think the reimagining our future is not going to be difficult, but it is definitely going to be challenging for us. Because you have to break into small pieces and you got to build your, ecosystems, start building, and you can create a value model that develop with the thinking of system thinking and system dynamics. What that means, if that based on the causalities within anything that we wanted to model it, for example, digital investment business case, and what we do, like we say that figure out how the value is created within the business case, and how do we describe it as a causalities. So those we try to figure out what should be measured in order to gain the best outcomes of that investment. So that way we can make better decision, we can improve the performance, whatever the way that we wanted. The value system which links the suppliers, channels, and the customers. The human being need to create their own value. You should be aiming there is something better than what you have right now. There is no reason to expand your energy. So you need a gradient, you need the value differentiation in order to act and create a value. So if you don't have something to aim with compared to competitor, compared to the industry benchmark, where are you right now? And I want to reach here. if you don't have anything to aim, there's no reason for you to jump to that level, then it doesn't make sense. So if you want to jump just for the sake of that, you want to be in that position, it doesn't make sense actually. You got to see, you got to act on what value that you are going to create. So this is again a typical model that Apple iPod and iTunes model, the business model that we have picked up the morning session. Now, this successful story is well known. I have briefed you about this as well. But Apple was not the first to bring in the digital music player. Remember, there are many others who brought it to the market. A company called Diamond Multimedia, they introduced Rio in 1998. Another best one is the Cabo 64. They brought in 2000. Both products work well, and they're portable, and they're stylish. In fact, some of the people say it is better than Apple iPod. So why did iPod rather than Rio or Cabo succeeded? Apple did something different and smart. Right? Apple did something different and smart. They had a good technology to wrap up in a snazzy design. It looked good technology and wrap into the great business model. And Apple's true innovation is to, was to make downloading digital music easy and convenient. That's their innovation. They wanted to make these people easily download the music and experience the digital music easily and convenient way. So that company built a groundbreaking model that combined hardware, software, and services. This approach worked like Gillette's famous blade and razor model. It's kind of a reverse model. So Apple, essentially what they did was they gave away blade, which is low margin iTunes music. So they used to charge for the music, but they gave away that portion, and they locked into the purchase of razor, which is high margin iPod. So Gillette blade and razor success story, I hope you would have heard about it. If not, you can just do a search. They just gave up. So the Apple did the same thing. So that model defined the value in a new way, and that provided a game-changing convenience to the customer. So this business model innovation have reshaped the entire industry and redistributed $1 billion business value. So that was the story about Apple. So here you can relate with all these points I have mentioned. So they have a hardware supplier because they don't own anything, and they have the cost of digital rights cost where they got to pay for the music, and the key resource that they had was multimedia right and the iTunes software. It's their brand and the people. And they had a hardware and software design, and they had a brand management associated with that. So the IT platform management, where you cannot take that music out and use it somewhere else. They locked into that device itself. You got to download it through the iPod to use it, or iTunes. So the offer what they gave was simply the stylish MP3 player, which has multimedia content. And the branding is like, it's a lifestyle brand. And it delivered through the channels, Apple Store and Dealer Network and Mac.com and iTunes. And the revenue streams are hardware revenue and multimedia revenues. So as far as the customer is concerned, they got the high-end customers to adopt to that, not the medium and lower end. Their target was high-end customers who can afford to buy that. But having said that, now the entire economy, the entire world is changing. Can you tell me who are the best 5 top software companies or the IT companies? Can you tell me? I'm coming to this, the fatal flaws. Before that, can you tell me? Okay, right now, you can say, like, take Apple. Apple is currently, now we are talking about, all this time we discuss about the Apple success story. Now the present situation is Apple is getting into the potential fatal flaw because they fail to recognize the customer, or they completely misread the customer in an utterly unsound economic condition. It's kind of losing the data race to companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft, because these companies are focusing on data. The data is everything. Data, like Pandit says, data is like is now like a oil. You know that Middle East has nothing but oil, and entirely they are controlling the rest of the world. I mean, at least nobody can do anything with them. This is why a lot of fights are going on, because they have money. They have oil, mean they have money. Those are hidden assets. It just come out. You don't know how much stock that they have. So now the current era, the data is money. The data is the new oil. And Apple is kind of falling behind its competitors like Amazon, Google, Facebook, Microsoft. Just as it's moved into the, that they have moved into the huge construction of their headquarters. They're spending almost $5 billion or more. So these 5 companies, which is Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Microsoft. Now the top 5s, I repeat again, Apple, right now in the name, Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook. Did you heard about Alphabet? Please unmute your mic and say at least yes or no. Did you heard about Alphabet?
No.
Alphabet is Google, because they're rebranding it, and Google is one of their, I mean, it's a group of company. There's something may happen. You would have experienced these days with a flash player. If you have a flash player in your browser, and if an application requires flash player to run that particular application, you can no more access that application. You got to buy a huge amount, pay a huge amount of money to get that license, or you got to change your platform. So likewise, Google, what they did, they collected all the data, It's still their number one search engine. It got best analytics. They collected all the data. Now slowly they are moving into, that different model altogether. We don't know where they will turn up. I'm sure they're going to play with something with the data they collected all this time. They're going to say, look, every single, now even if you go to the house, even a 5-year-old child got Gmail account today. It's more or less like your birth certificate. It has gone up to that level. Just 5 years gap. They left only 5 years. Rest of the generations are on Google now. Just imagine the potential they have. So this is where the world is moving towards. So you got to be careful in terms of understanding the customer and the economic condition. Right. So for us to be competitive, adapting to technology is one of the most critical and fundamental aspect of it. This is the category of technology adoption curve. It's called bell curve. Most of the people are coming under the early majority and late majority. What is by early majority is people who is trying to get into the digital platform, technology, start using the technology. They're getting into that. Another majority, they already got into that. That means then that the portion is huge. Some of them still onboarding. There's a huge crowd of people. Another huge set of people are just onboarded. And innovators mean the people who invent the technology. Early adopters mean the moment the technology is out, they are the first people to use it. For example, when a new iPhone or Samsung phone is released, you will find that phone in those people's hand within a month or two. Like new smart TV is released, and somehow they managed to get it. New watch, some digital watch, something like that. Likewise, anything you call, they are the first to join. So then again, that the early adopters are again only 13.5%. The innovators, the people who create those technologies, are only 2.5%. And laggards mean like they don't want to get into. I'm okay with this. I don't want to get into this sort of, that I'm not there to do this. I'm old. So I don't want to use these technologies, etc. I don't care about these things. I don't trust these things. And they just keep themselves away. So that crowd is somewhere in the range of 16%. So most of the people you find early majority and the late majority, and these are the people who actually utilizing the technology. So there's a huge crowd out here as well, but you can't do much with them. So then how do we, make them use this e-business model? Because overall the idea is the organization should move to the e-business model, whereas the consumer also should be ready to accommodate that. That's the whole idea. So according to Professor Haim Menson, on his argument, he says that combined effect of mobile technologies, wearable devices, and sensors, and cloud computing and big data technologies will refine the structure of the future business model. To achieve company's mission, the company should focus on customer loyalty via extensive data gathering and capitalizes those data on both employee attitude and IT capabilities. If an organization is failed to do that, then that organization can no longer exist in another 5 years or 10 years down the line. But that 5 years become 1 year now. So then the other aspect is the operational excellence. So the customer intimacy is like, how do you bring those? Then the operational excellence is to achieve the mission of the company, focus on customer loyalty and all that. And it is the excellence is not about price itself. For example, FedEx, they attempt to show the differentiation by offering timelines and reliability. So if you want to get quick service, the moment you get FedEx, it's what clicks on your mind is quick. And it is guaranteed. But so that is the brand that they position among the people. So then again, we'll take Walmart example also. They provided the operational excellence with the theme of always low price. To the 60s, again, retired to save money for better life or live better for the rest of the year. So retired people, I mean, just imagine the theme that they brought in, low price, I mean, always low price to the 60s to save money for better life. So you have something savings, some revenue coming to you through retirement plan or whatever, and you got to save that money to live for some time. So you got to buy items at an affordable price or cheap price. So Walmart has positioned at this, that their inbound logistics, whatever the items which is they are dealing with retailing an end standard product through the value chain to accommodate this. So they had a superior backend process that had a lower structure, lower cost structure that allowed the company to increase inventory, the stock, to maintain more stocks, and through that they able to make good profit. But they haven't put the full price to the customer also. With the lower markup, they were able to gain more profit. How? They reduce the cost through their operational, the backend process. That is a low cost structure. And they have a huge facility to maintain the stock and release it to the customers. So at the end of the day, they deliver the best product at lower price with low margin, but high profit overall. So they had a markup of 50%, which is kind of turnover rate, they call it as 4. They've increased that inventory into, they doubled the turnover rate. Let's say, if they need 10 items today, they usually get 10 items. They used to maintain 40 items at the stock, so that they have the stock for next 4 days. So before that, they should be able to refill it. That's the ratio that they used to maintain. Then what they decided was, let's double that. 4 become 8, but reduce the cost or the markup from 50% to 32%. By doing that, their sales has grown a bit because they have the stock, so that the price come down, the people start to buy more, then the more items start flowing, they were able to that increase their profit margin altogether. So they use the lower markup coupled with the high availability, and also they kind of maintain a low inventory level. Rather than keeping more stocks, they try to reduce the inventory level and focusing on procurement and logistics and distribution, using IT to track that and identify the demand on a product by product basis, and then they increase the transparency through their low cost supply chain. These increase the efficiency and allow Walmart to lower the price, and it's lead to the increased volume and the scale. So this is how the Walmart was able to achieve it, and they call it the productivity loop, right? This is what we call it, the productivity loop, how they were able to bring that productivity with the better price strategy. So reinventing the company in the digital age. So I think I'll have to move fast quickly because there are a lot of things to cover as well. Right? So the technology is changing rapidly, right? So data is playing a bigger role, especially in the companies when you're creating the business models and all that. So the companies also try to face, new clients and the market is shifting and all that. So this mode of interaction, it must create the culture, and based on the collaboration and the diversity across all the levels of people. So this approach has revolutionizing the business practices and how we used to work in a working environment. So this leads to that kind of change in approach in the organization's management as well as the leadership. So I will quickly show you one video clip which talks about that. Sort of. We got to play this quickly. Can you hear the voice? Is that audio?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now look at that how I hope that video was self-explanatory how the digital age, the company should be in the new digital age, right? So now look at it, how would you align the business model in the digital age? So especially the organizations where the digital technology become the backbone of the organization, and they offer the innovative product and services and novel operational capabilities, which innovation, business model and organization techniques that those usually enable them to deliver, that large, at least huge impact or the large impact to um, their organizations and the peers. So the businesses who actually successfully digitally transform themselves, they become the exponential organization to drive the exponential growth, and they become a digital or the regional player. Through that, they are contributing towards the economy and prosperity of their country itself. So, what do you actually need to do in order to achieve that? You got to have digitized customer experience platform, and you got to have good digitized products and services, and you got to have the digitized operation in all the aspects. Finally, your organization should be digitized, right? Unless and otherwise you have those things, you won't be able to move faster. So how would you expect the customer engagement in the new digital age? So in order to maximize the customer satisfactions and to gain the lifetime revenue from the customer, apart from the data that they collect from the customer, the organizations are also looking at a digital footprint. So that the customer have left that outside the organization. Usually they go into the various social medias and various forums and blogs, and they write about your company or some other companies and all that in their website, their social media pages, and some messages, so you got to, those are the digital footprints of the customer. So the moment you got that trigger, bad service, tag to KFC or Dialog or Telecom or Mobitel, you pick up that. Good service, you pick up that. Wonderful. I'm excited with the service given by Inland Revenue Department. You pick up that. So those are the digital footprint. The customer who leaves somewhere as a feedback, if it is there in the public domain, and how are you going to pick up those? Those are the sentiment that you need to work on it. If you don't know how the people are behaving and acting on it, it is going to be difficult for you all to, cater to that market and be competitive in the market. So for you all to engage, you should have you should acquire those customer intelligence and enhance your engagement with the customer to provide the personalized product and services to the individuals. This is, we are talking about providing services and the customized experience to the individual. How can you do that? Being an organization, let's look at the population of Sri Lanka. We can't serve the customers for 10 to 15 people, make them happy. Here we are talking about millions of billions of people to be satisfied. It is possible. That is the level of scale that the organization should look at. So in a world where customers expect to engage with the organization 24/7 from all available channels, the organization's responsibility to offer the omnichannel experience to the customer is a key as part of their digital transformation strategy. of an organization. So they should have a proper digital marketing strategy. It's provide enhance the evidence of acquiring and incorporating external, the electronic consumer footprint and bring them into your organization, and then use that information to, that use your sales and marketing strategy to interact with them. Then the designing and implementing your omnichannel or customer engagement platform which available 24/7 to give seamless customer engagement process, to utilize the multiple customer touch point. This can enhance the customer engagement as well as give you more satisfaction with the customer. So the consumer buy the experience, not just product or the service. Therefore, organizations should focus on selling the customer a journey or the experience rather than product or service. Organizations, they can enable digital customer interaction with any product or service that they offer and capture consumer insight into the product or service. And then they can use that to deliver the novel customer experience based on the data which is collected from the product or service. So therefore, connected product or service that will enable the organization to break the boundaries of boundaries and offer the innovative business model by giving them, that deep insight about the consumer insight, and you can come up with the, the better innovative business model. So how do we assess the organizational readiness for e-business? Now, these are the items we'll have to quickly run through it because we got another 15 minutes to cover, but these are interesting areas. So this is, that the early stage is the foundation stage where enterprise is actively automating internal process such as selling, marketing, support, finance, and using the CRM and other based platforms. And this is more of an automation, or we call it digitalization, than the digital transformation, but it provides the digitalized foundation necessary for future transformation. Such as you have website, you have mobile apps, you have social media, you have email system, SMS system, WhatsApp, and all that. These automating processes will enable customer to profiling and track the performance of the customers. So the organization capability that use digitized technology, and they can use that outcome based on that outcome, that they can use the digital ecosystem. So the e-business model should have the new business model transformation itself, and they use the new technology to create that exponential growth. So to do that, should have the enterprise-wide, that the strategy, and this has to be driven from the top. So unless you have the senior management, senior leaders have sufficient digital literacy to drive this transformation, it doesn't going to help you. So you probably will be upgrading your digital technologies to digital latest platform, which can include the AIs, and you're digitizing your operation, and you're seeing huge benefit, but still you don't have digitally disruptive product or customer relationship or operation. So this level we call it foundation level. The next level is emerging, or we call it silo, where the organization should have the individual functions such as business to start using disruptive technologies and all that. And they should have new business model such as selling direct to consumers by using adoption of mobile apps, website, web services, and communities, surveys, etc. You know that, but the organizations are not setting up the adequate tracking for their customer journey. So while having all these sort of comfortable or robust application, still they cannot track the customer journey. They find it almost impossible to define and measure the ROI. So therefore, this point where the efforts has been put in by organizations are happening in silo. So you got to answer or find out how the leaders identified and committed to the personal skills, and are they ready for the transformation. And leaders, they have the momentum to drive this transformation. And have you looked at all three transformational possibilities, like the technology, the processes, and the ecosystems? And you have that disruptive digital possibilities, right? So there, why you are still being siloed? Because even though you are in emerging, but still you are in siloed because there is no enterprise-wide strategy to completely transform your business model. So next level, we are talking about stabilizing or partially synchronize. This sort of organizations are mainly the leadership has recognized the disruptive power of digital technologies and define the linear progression with the unique customer experience for digital future state of the organization. However, the organization has started tracking adequate tracking for their decision points in perspective of the customer journey, such as email clicks and page browsed, purchase history, even second or third party data partnership for customers processing journey. So when it comes to clicks, do you know when you go to big portal, like for example, you are going to buy a ticket, airline ticket from Airbus, Sri Lankan Airlines. Just take Sri Lankan Airlines. You are trying to book the ticket, but you are checking the price and you are coming out. So why are you doing that? Why do you want to check that? Because you have an intent to go abroad. You may not be checking the price just because that you just want to do it, but at least you are comparing the price. Or you are trying to actually book the ticket, but you are unable to perform. So what's happening is you are a prospective customer that they identify. The moment you click on their site and browse through and get into that price page, there you can have a mechanism to track who you are. What are you doing? What all are the options that you are looking at? Getting your profile. The moment you close it, within the next 5 minutes, you will get a call. So you are trying to access, can I help you? This is the level of transformation that we are talking about. This is what we are calling that clicks and browse and all that. However, even though this partially synchronized organization having the system up to that level, the enterprise is not completed their transforming as the digital as their backbone, or they don't have a new business model, or they don't have a agile and innovative culture to become sustainable. Because today you can have a system, but if you don't have a plan to expand it, be competitive, be leader, then still you are not fully reached that point. Yes, today you are okay. So there is no agile and innovative culture, and there is no adoption of IoT, machine learning across business processes and other areas, then the productivity goes for a sake. So you are not utilizing the resources, the data that you generated through the system. So your enterprise has a mix of old and new digital business model, and the processes and the products. So as part of your corporate strategy, you are not fully digital. You are not winning perpetually. You are digitally optimized for the moment. But you have one technology, you have one product or processes. Your change is away from, you can be away from being disrupted by your competitor, but still you know that you are not the level that you are supposed to be. The next level we are talking about future ready or fully synchronized organization. Where the organization has a technical blueprints, where they can have the schematic visualization of fully synchronized and mark the point where the enterprise-wide digital platform and new business model has fully taken to the roots. And it is a kind of on-time transformation. However, there's still, that just one technology or one business model. And they can be still away from disrupted by any of the competitors or the newcomers, but human aspect of the organization has not experienced by the business. What is the human aspect? There is no digital capabilities which with agile innovative culture is not part of their enterprise business model, even though they have fully explored creating open ecosystems and all that. The last part, which is living DNA, is where we are talking about it is ultimate ever evolving market leader. You operate fully digital and your workforce is digitally survey and provide huge personalized and they give the creative value to the customers, and you have most innovative business model. And this organization have the transformation is fully synchronized and it is ongoing, and you maintain ongoing industry trend leadership, and your discipline innovation is happening in the organization, and kind of step beyond your market leader. So this is called the fully digital or this digital DNA organization. This is again another interesting video. Let me share that as well, because that's explain you a lot of insight about what I was discussing. Can you see and hear the audio? I can't hear you. Someone else? Can you hear the voice audio?
Yes, sir.
Something is wrong. Let me open it again.
Have you ever wondered why hyper-successful companies like Nokia or Kodak suddenly lose their edge? Nakamichi, Newsweek, or Polaroid possibly fail? Did they not have abundant R&D resources, top employees, and profound knowledge? Of tomorrow's success. The innovation cycle spins faster than ever in nearly all industries. Innovation either increases the customer value of a product or service, or it lowers their costs. And therefore creates a competitive advantage. Apple, for instance, creates a high perceived customer value with its innovative new products, and Dell reduces its costs and working capital through builds our processes. But even though its importance is undisputed, they are all wrong. IBM did not invent the personal computer. Apple did not invent MP3 technology. And Amazon did not invent the online bookstore. Successful innovators. And how do you generate revenue? And a business model innovation changes at least two of these four dimensions. In our research, we've looked at all major business model innovations in the past 50 years. They have all revolutionized one or several industries. For instance, IKEA has redefined the way we buy furniture. TomTom has transformed the navigation business, or eBay has changed the world of trade. Nearly 10% of these business model innovations were novel and introduced new business model errors. The other 90% merely adapted or combined these factors. During integration, you need to check the consistency of the business model. This is important detail work where you examine all four questions before the organizational phase. Finally, it is time to awaken the beast. But be careful. In iterative cycles, you design a business model, build a pilot, test the pilot, and return. Therefore, keep a few rules in mind. First, only implement one business model at a time. Second, clearly communicate the new business model and the need for change. Third, don't overemphasize short-term KPIs. Innovation needs time. Fourth, get top management commitment. Without their sponsorships, business model innovation is doomed to fail. And finally, overcome a not in execution syndrome. Innovation is research and development. Are you ready then to revolutionize your own industry? Try to creatively learn from the giants whose shoulders you are standing on. Think big. And think different. Steve Jobs said.
Okay. So we are almost reached the point of our end of our session. How long do we have? So these are actually quick reviews of business model innovation that I have covered most of it. Just go through this one. And business model innovation Then again, it's about business model. It's a required deep understanding of your company's competitive advantage, and also to understand which business model innovation approach best suits for your company. It is critical to understand both the impetus and the focus. So the rest of the things are self-explanatory. This also I would let you read and understand how you reinvent the approach and adapt approach, um, and also maverick approach and the adventure approach. Let's go through this. And there are types of business model innovation. I'll let you go through. There are six types, and then the questions to be considered. So, as the last part of this session, I would like to just play this as well, because this is one of the um, very important aspect of it. Let me share the screen about the blue ocean strategy. So the blue ocean strategy is about the how do you know that reach to the now the market you are in today is red ocean. The red ocean is the existing market where the industry boundaries and rules and competitions are well defined. So therefore, companies try to that outperform their rivals and they grab the bigger share of existing demand. But the blue ocean is about market creating strategies, about how you create and capture unknown market where demand is created rather than fight for a demand. So some organization they create, that they try to get into this blue ocean. So most blue ocean emerges when the companies alter their boundaries for an existing industry. So let's have a look at this one as a last part, because this is again important to understand, so that will clear. So let me close it and open from the file again. So I hope you are with me. This is the last part, just 1 minute video only. The circus is a new business model innovation. They created a blue ocean strategy, where they had issues and challenges, because they used to do this program through the animals. So when there is a lot of restriction and issues came up with using these animals for the circus, so they came up with a new strategy that the human itself can that play a major role in that. So this is about that, how they create a new strategy.
Existing industries and markets, where industry boundaries and the rules of competition are well defined. Companies strive to outperform rivals. Demand is created rather than fought over. In some cases, this forms entirely new industries. But But most promotions, however, would be boxes and low cost in what Kim Moborn called value innovation. The simultaneous pursuit of value and cost is the logic of Blue Ocean strategy. Based on that study,
So that's it about this. I hope you again insight about what is this business model and how you should be looking at and what all are the success stories. And you not only heard from me, also you heard from the several that productive videos which I would have. That I'm sure that you would have gained a lot of insight about it. So this circus one, the last one, you show that how difficult for them to transport the animals, because it is initially they were doing it with animals only. So transporting animals and train them and keep them healthy, a lot of challenges. So they how they convert that into that circus model where they can that human can perform all of it with few or limited animals. So, yeah, those are classic examples. Today we have looked at the various examples. We have almost exceeded the time by 10 minutes also, but still I thought let's finish it off so that you have better understanding. And I'm sure that you are gain maximum value out of this session. So thank you very much. I'm kind of know that worried a little bit because only few people were interacting. Others, they're just silent, and also half of the class is here. So please inform others to attend the class, because we are making a lot of effort to give you the maximum knowledge, and you've got to know that take the value out of it. So thank you again. We'll meet you on my next session.